So I've been asked a few times now how I actually do the overlays on my YouTube videos. I'm going to cover what process I use. The data logs I take from the engine's ECU, from a megasquirt ECU. This can either be done by a laptop in a traditional tuning software data logs, or through an Android tablet, which I use. I personally use an app called Dash, which is the same people that make the tuning software itself, and you can actually take a data log from that by running an FTDI to USB serial cable into the tablet. I also on the tablet have Racerender, specifically Racerender Pro, but the free version will do this as well, and that's a laptimer app that I use with a Bluetooth 10 Hz GPS receiver. I actually used 5 Hz for the GPS signal, just for a bit more reliability. And this basically allows me to do 2 separate logs, because traditionally the applications I used on Android, say like Harry's Laptimer and Trackmaster, they couldn't really run in the background, whereas Racerender allows me to use other applications while it's doing the lap timing, which is really handy because I don't specifically want to see lap times on the screen, and the marshals definitely don't want to see lap times on the screen. And the priority for my car is the megasquirt gauges, so I can keep an eye on what the engine's doing. So in essence, I get 2 log files that I can manually pair up in a program called Racerender, which again you're going to have to pay for, but it's certainly worth it just for the sheer amount of effort that's gone into making everything compatible. And this is compatible with any sort of data files from ECUs, from your typical sort of CAN bus, OBD, the megasquirt, and the likes, which other programs don't do, and they don't allow multiple data logs. So I'm going to cover how I make the videos a little bit trick. So the program I'm using is Racerender 3, specifically 64-bit in my case, and this brings up sort of a selection of options you can choose depending on which videos you want to make. And usually I just go for data overlay and simple. You can go straight into a picture-in-picture with data. You can do just pictures in pictures. 360 datas are now allowed in this application, which is brilliant. And you've probably seen some pretty cool videos out there, Nissan GTRs and all the data overlays. A various selection of options. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to go for data overlay simple. The video file, I mean, to begin with, you definitely want to separate all your files. So when you do data logs, you're going to need to save them for specific times, so it's definitely worth making sure your GoPro's got the right time, your tablet or laptop have got the right time for your data logs. Same with whatever lap timer you're using, all the time zones are all correct, because the file names will actually have the times in them, and that certainly helps trying to pair up if you've been doing a track day and taking multiple log files. So it's also worth separating them all, putting them all to the same folder, which I'll cover now. So in this particular instance, I'm just going to do a short template. So I'm going to add a video file. I'm going to go into my Angle Z track day that I've just done. I'll go into my GoPro sessions, and you can see I've labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's got the time. I'm going to choose number 6. The input file is going to be a data file, and I'm going to add a lap timer, which is going to be for, bear with me, lap timer session, which is number 6, and I'm going to select this one, which is my lap timer from Racerender. This I've exported from the application. You can either drag it from the file browser, file manager in your Android tablet, or email it to yourself by signing up to the Racerender specific website. So this is my session for number 6. I'm going to open this, go OK, and then it gives me a load of templates to choose from, and this is just the basic overlays that it can do for you, and there's a lot more, and you can download custom ones, and you can make your own gauges. You can see that previous projects I've saved the template for the videos I was doing when I went to Nürburgring, just so you can transfer it across to multiple videos. In this case I'll select a compact, because I got the GoPro. I don't want everything on the screen. I like it down towards the bottom, so this compact's free. It looks quite good. And from here, this is the templates it automatically produces. So the laptimer application uses the accelerometer and GPS data to calculate G-force, and as I've selected the laptimer data file, I'm going to leave this G-force selected along with track map, lap counter, lap timer. I'm going to leave these off for now. I mean, I can add them, you can always take them out. Speed is also GPS speed. I take GPS speed from the laptimer app just because it's more accurate than the car, because my car uses a electronic speed converter from kilometers to miles, and it gets a bit of a dodgy signal. Select the max speed of the car, just so when you select gauges it only goes up to a certain value. Generally this is to do with the car's data. This isn't recorded from my Race Chrono data file. However, Race Chrono does allow sort of OBD readings to be tied into that, so you could set this if you're using an OBD file. For the megasquirt this doesn't matter, you can just set this anyway, and once you're done just click OK. Same with this, I'll just cover this. So this is all going to be on my my engine data file, so I'm going to leave this off of the Race Chrono file. So I'm going to go OK, and this basically brings up the setup wizard straight away. It's put a template on for me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close this for the minute. I'm just going to scroll across. Obviously the video starts going, the data log starts going. This is the Race Chrono lap timer, so you can see I'm already into the lap, but the lap timer is a bit behind, and that's purely because the video was started here along with the Race Chrono, which has been running for some time before the video. As this is not on the screen, it's running in the background. So to very easily sync this up, I'm just going to do a full lap. I'm going to stop somewhere near the start finish. So you can see the start finish lines here. I'm going to go forward until it just gets past the mirror, so that should be in line with the front wheels. So this would technically be lap 2, because the lap time has already been recording while I've been in the pits, and it's counting that as a lap. So we now need to synchronize this, and the very easiest way to do this is if you go into the side-by-side panel here and choose your sync input as the lap timer data and reference input as your video file. You want to bring this to the start and do your full lap and stop it before the flag or before the start finish. If you go after, you can't sync it backwards, because this is from where the lap time is actually going to start within the video file. So there's various options here if you want to just do minute changes. I always just start with this as is. I just do the full lap just to get me somewhere close, and I go OK. So now what I can do is I know I'm here on the line, and I'm going to sort of reference this as the start of lap 2. So I'm going to go to Synchronization tool. I'm going to choose the input file, which is the Anglesey Coastal. That's my lap timer. And I'm going to bring this forward until the lap goes into lap 2. So it wasn't far off. So I'm going to go back 1 second. These are all minute adjustments here. You can go 5 seconds, 1 second, and it's into the very minute stuff. So I'm going to go into that. And the lap time was actually 8.7. So I can bring it back to the point it just clicks over, because there's a little delay after the lap, when it ticks over the next lap. Bring it back. So we're looking for 8, 7. So in my case I've got quite lucky here where I've dragged this. So I've got 8, 4, 8, 7, that's perfect, 0.33, matches up brilliantly. So that should now be synced. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to just go backwards here. So you can see it ticked over lap 2. Going back, multiple frames or single frames buttons here. And that's pretty much perfect. So that's that one done. I mean, there's also minute adjustments. This timer here, you can see when it does pass, it doesn't start. So if you want to really adjust this even more finely, you can go to add, and the way I do this is I go into enhance display objects and make sure it's for the input file of the lap timer, and I go down to a lap list. Now you can drag this up a little bit. The field doesn't need to be set because it knows it's a lap list, it knows it's for the lap timer. I can, however, make this bigger just for the time being. And if I was to go back here, you can see that this timer does start straight after. So we can see if I go forward 1 frame, we're very, very close. So just past the line of that frame, so that's pretty much on the line here, just past. So this should be that point. So that looks like it's synced quite nicely. I'm going to leave that as it is. So now we've got the lap timer all synced with the video. The other thing we want to do, if you're just using lap timer data on top of your video, you can now continue to customize this. You can select your objects, you can make them smaller, you can change the colors. There's add display objects here, and this is for the input files. So I'm going to select it for the race chrono file, and I'm actually going to add a new object. I'm going to go down and add a peak G-force. It's quite small. You can see I've just added it here. If you can't drag it, because sometimes these blue markers are larger than the actual object, you can select it in here. Go to your setup and then make it larger. Just drag that. And you can customize this however you want. There's many objects and many different things you can do with this. It does take some time if you want to make it look nice, but again, it's entirely down to you. Same with the track map, there's all different options. The template it gives you can change the basic stuff. So say this track map, if I select this and change the style, there's a new style with braking, which measures the GPS and accelerometer. So you can see that I'm braking very, very early on my sessions. It's quite a good tool to use. And again, you can move everything around, you can select stuff, you can add text if you wanted to. There's many different things you can do. I will cover the megasquirt now because this is pretty basic on the track stuff. Even simple things like if you just want speed in text, you can add a text which is ended up down here, and you can select the field and go for speed. I'll take out the decimals, and then I'll change this to use text, number and text, so 61 mph. I'll add a space, 61 mph. It's very basic, but you can change absolutely everything. You can change the text, you can change the size. With the text stuff, if you're trying to match it to existing text here, there's a pixel shift which gives you very fine adjustments. Same with the size, and you can keep aspect ratio or bring it down, smaller. It's entirely dependent on you. So that's very basic. That's the two files synced up. If I was to make this video now with just the laptimer data, I would want it from the start of my session. So I'd go back to the start, so it cuts out me farting about the GoPro and farting about the harnesses. I'll start from the beginning here, and I'll put this green flag, which is the start input. So this is the video output. When you save the video, it's going to start from here. And again, for the end, I'm not going to go all the way through the pits where the GoPro's still running. I'm going to select it about here, just entering the pits. So again, if you were to save this video now, you can go to create file, create video, save the project, yes, and I select MPEG because there's a GoPro file, matches the source. You can select templates here if you want upload, so it compresses it down. I tend to stay local file and just keep it as high def, which is the source file of the GoPro's 1080p. And the video frame rate on this GoPro is actually 59.94. You can confirm that by going into the files and go into properties, details, and the GoPro is actually 59, not 60. That does make a difference. You need to keep it to 59.97, not 60, because there'll be a frame skip here and there, and it's not gonna be as smooth. So back into the program here, select your right frame rate depending on your source file. You can change the audio, you can boost this up if you wanted to at the sacrifice of file size, so you can make that 320 for better audio, which brings up the file size per hour. Same with the picture scaling for the gauges. Generally I leave this as it is, and then create video file and tell you where to save it, and once it's saved you get a video with your data overlay on the top. So there's also within this there's a YouTube uploader, so it's saved a local file, and it also, you can sign into YouTube and put it straight on there with a few tags and stuff relating to this Racerender program. Completely up to you if you want to do that. So the other thing we can do is add more source or more input files to this. So I'm going to bring this back towards the beginning again, and I'm actually going to add the engine data. Go to add. In my case this is obviously in the megasquirt ECU. I'm in my data folder here where I've saved my files. We've already imported this race chrono, the lap timer. I'm going to import this MSL, which is my megasquirt log file for the session. You see nothing changes. So we've added the megasquirt. I'm going to refer to this as engine data, and I'm going to add a new object, and very simply I'm going to add a bar, which I'm going to go down into the throttle. You can change this input file straight away if you want to, or I'll leave this. I'll change this for now. I'll change this one, so let's throttle for the megasquirt, and you can see that clearly we're a little bit off. So I'm going to also add tachometer, which is at a basic RPM. What I've done here is I've just imported a gauge straight away without changing the input file. So this is megasquirt, this is clearly not reading right. So we go into the object. I'll just close this window to explain how this happens. I select the object, it selects the right one within my list here. You can either click setup, double click into that, or double click the gauge. When you've got many objects on and you're overlapping stuff, you tend to want to make sure it's selecting the right one before you start ticking in and changing stuff, because it makes some unwanted changes, or you might shift the video or shift something that you don't really want to move. So we're in the tachometer here. I'm going to change the field, I'm going to change the input back to the megasquirt, and the field is automatic because it's an RPM gauge. It's recognized that it needs to read the RPM. You can change that to whatever you need to. You get a list of the file, the recognized inputs from your data file. So the RPM's there, the throttle's there. We're just a little bit early. See that we had full throttle and a gear change, which isn't for some time. So this actually needs to come back slightly. And if I was to do the synchronization tool here, and I'll make sure it's on the right file, which is the megasquirt, I can't go back. I can go forward, but I can't go back. So what I actually need to do is go into the side by side, and again make sure you're on the right input file here. And the reference input, I'm actually going to make this easy, I'm going to go back to my video where it starts, roughly on the green line, and then do the side by side. I'm actually going to bring this back about I'll go about 10 seconds back, and click OK. It's going to tell me that it's basically starting before the project begins, so that's fine for me at the minute. What that basically means is if you were to start the project at the very beginning, you can see that the lap time is already there, but this one doesn't start. That's all that warning was for. However, because we're exporting the video from this point, the gauges will be on there. So close enough. So I'm actually going to use the synchronization tool now. I'm going to make sure it's the right input. I'm going to bring it forward a second until I've got the full throttle, and I'll go forward a little bit more until I see the RPMs drop and the throttle come off. I'm going to go back a few frames on here, and I'm going to listen for the engine. And also, in my case, I've got a boost gauge down here which I can see the needle on. As soon as the needle drops, I know the throttle's come off. So there's two ways you can do it. Generally I do it by ear, so as soon as you hear the throttle come off and the clutch go down, the rev's obviously going to drop. So you have to just try and persist and get this correct. So I'm actually going to look at my left leg here. Clutch has gone down, so the rev should have come off by now. So I'm actually going to synchronize it a little bit more. Again, make sure it's on the right file. I'm going to come forward about here. I'm really happy with that. You can just about see the gauge here. So that pretty much drops down to 0 about the same time the throttle's off. So that's pretty close. I'm really happy with that. also listening for those heel toe blips. So you might be able to see this. There's a boost gauge here, and that one frame skip brings the needle down one, and the throttle just starts to come down. So that is pretty much bang on. There might be like a millisecond in that, but for the purpose of this video, that is pretty good. Now, the megasquirt itself, I mean, this program will accept the megasquirt log files. However, when you come to add more gauges later on, I want to add a gauge, and normally there's no boost gauge that you can add. There's various gauges, but you have to tell it what input you have. Now, when you select a gauge, I'll just do one as an example here. Choose this one. It's 4D megasquirt log file. I've got map reading. You can see I've added boost PSI here, and I'll show you how to do that. You don't have a PSI reading, you only have the map manifold air pressure, which is in the kPa. So you can see that clearly that's not 135, 149 PSI boost, that's a kPa reading. So we need to change that because I want this to display in boost pressure, as in normal PSI. So to add a boost gauge as such, we need to close this. We need to actually go into the data file, and we need to add a custom calculation field. So I'm going to call this, I've added a few as templates before. I'm going to make sure it's easily visible by just doing it in caps lock and just doing boost PSI, and an input field, I'm going to change this to manifold air pressure, and I'm also going to select kPa to PSI, and the calculation you need to do, I've actually saved this, just basic manifold calculation, but the figure is minus 14.5037738. I'm going to copy this and put this into here, and I'll just simply go OK. Now next time I go to add a gauge, or rather I could even use the same one we have, I can click into it, I can change the field, and we need to scroll down and try find this reference that we've just made. So there you go, we've got boost PSI, and this is reading vacuum pressure below 0, and above 0 it's going to be boost. So I'll make this larger here. I don't necessarily want the digits after, so I'm actually going to take out the decimal places. And again, the gauges can be customized. There's many labels you can put. You can put boost on there if you wanted to. And then you have to go into Gauge Designer and take out your numbers if you didn't want a number. It's very complicated when you start making the gauges look exactly how you want to. You can do background images, so you could even make them look like your actual car if you're handy with Photoshop. In my purpose, I'm actually going to just get rid of this gauge. So just select that and delete. And I'm going to show you how to add text data for simple things like data or just normal text overlays. So when we go to add, I'm going to make sure it's the right input file. I'm going to go to text data here, and I'm going to select our boost PSI. Drag this up a little bit, and again I'm going to take out the decimals, which you can edit that. Again, maximum digits if you want to change all this. Same with the range. If you go 0, but having a number just flash up, you obviously want some number and text. So I'll take this back off again. I'll change the text to PSI. I'll add a space in between that. Okay, so now we've got this, we need to add a label, which is where things get complicated. You've got minute adjustments here that you can make. You can make that a little bit smaller, so it'll match the profile of this. And again, you can change every gauge that's in your template. You can delete everything if you wanted to and just start from scratch, choosing different things along the way. Same thing with the needle. You can change the style, change all these without having to move stuff around. It's kind of handy. So this one here, we know it's boost in PSI, but I need to add a text to that as well. So I'm actually going to go to add and just normal text. And again, just going to call that boost. And you can juggle between the two, making sure your fonts are all matched up, all the same size. So bring it down to 25. Can move it across. You get the idea. You can make this look how you want. You can change the fonts along the way. You can make it look however you want, and display it wherever you want on the screen. This is how it's going to take quite some time to get used to. There's other calculations you can do if you do need them. However, this is the same sort of process. I just copy text data, I make a duplicate, and this number 3, I'm actually going to go into setup. I'm going to change that text data to a different field, which is going to be, I'll have this as AFR reading. Obviously it should be reading PSI, so we're just going to change that to AFR. Also going to add in 1 decimal. I'm going to add a space, change up the caps lock. So again, you can add various different text. You get the idea. Essentially, it's quite handy that you can just mess with absolutely everything. There's various display objects. You can add gear changers if your ECU supports that. My gear selection doesn't really appear correctly. It's just based off the speed sensor. However, like you can add peak G-force, which I think we've already done. Shift lights, which is kind of cool. So you can just have a normal shift light here. And we're going to need to tell it that it's for the megasquirt, and again it's based on RPM, and we'll trigger it above 6.5. So we'll see at what point in our video we can trigger that. Again, you can change the background, you can change the shift color. There's various things you can do with this program. It's very well made. Delete this one. Yeah, there's absolutely loads you can do with this. It's quite complicated and quite time consuming. The main thing is just getting your videos synced. and absolutely save your project. The other thing you have to bear in mind is when you move the local files around within your computer, the project is going to try find them in the same place. So you want to make sure your project is good and you've finished your video and you've exported it and you're happy, because any changes you make and any file deletions, you're obviously going to lose that, and you have to do the syncs again. Yeah, it's pretty damn good. I mean, the very basic things I'll do as well, just to cover this. We didn't select the picture in picture to begin with. However, what I'll do now is I'll just show you can still add yet another input file. So I'm going to go into angle C trackday. I'm going to go to a bumper cam and number 6. You can see this is another input. I'm actually going to need to sync this one up as well, because you can see that we're quite ahead. So we'll do the same technique as before. I'm just going to go do a full lap from the start to the start finish line. I'll start going. I missed that one. See that coming up now. You just see it in the corner here. Again, I'm just going to go by the line and the lap time here. So about 0.9 milliseconds out. That's not too bad. So we need to do another synchronization here, and I'm actually going to do a side by side with the video. So this is my new video here. Our reference is the full screen beginning of lap 2, and I'm actually going to sync this one forward to a full lap. I'll try to find the start line. Go. So 1 frame over, about here, pretty much perfect. I'm just going to go OK. So now we should be synced up on the videos there. But you notice we have audio from both, so I'm actually going to select that video and go into the setup. I'm just going to mute that audio. From here as well, you can actually change the style. So if you had a rear view camera, you could change it to have it displayed as a rear view mirror, which is kind of cool. Just keeps the aspect and makes it look a bit strange, but again, it's all customizable. You can make that bigger, smaller. For the minute, I'm just going to leave that as sort of a quarter video, just for the sake of it. Make that smaller. Mute that audio. Again, manufacturing this is on the bumper. Probably need to come forward, sorry, about two frames. So I'm actually going to synchronize that, make sure this is the right file. So that's the laptimer video file. I'm going to go just forward about 2 frames. So you can see the white line here. If I move this gauge, you can see the white line is probably in line with the bumper, and just before the white line here, I'll go OK. looks pretty good. Now clearly you can make this look however you want to. I'm not gonna try and attempt to make this look pretty because it's going to take a long time. However, you've got the basics of this now. You know, add the boost gauges, text data, various gauges here. There's absolutely loads to choose from, and you can choose it per the input file. So you can just select audio only. If you have a video only, it will select the video and audio. So you could take a different recording if you had a camera in the boot and just a microphone running off it. Or from laptiming, it gets rid of the video stuff. It just gives you the gauges, and automatically, if you select this for the input file, it will automatically put it here, so you wouldn't need to change that after. It doesn't matter, you can select everything you want and then change it afterwards. So again, curve speed, I'm just going to add that. It's quite small down here. Make that larger. Again, you can add everything, and you just need to tell it what the input file is. So that was automatically selected as the race chrono lap timer, which is the GPS speed, and that's correct. So yeah, there's many things you can do with this. Main thing I've noticed as well, if you hop from project to project, if you accidentally have two of these videos, especially when you're making loads of duplicates of like the gauges here, if you were to just select say that and then go duplicate, and it happened to be the background video which you selected, but you've already clicked duplicate, it would double up the audio and it'd be quite loud. So you need to just make sure you've only got one full screen video, and second video file, just mute out the audio. The joy with this program is you can essentially take the raw files. So this is a raw GoPro file with all the start and farting about the harnesses. Same with the bumper one, you obviously need to start that before you start your session. Rather than go in a video editing program, cut them down, so you have to then cut down, do your data overlays, you can just do it all at once within this program. And because you can tell it where to start the export from, so I've started from here, everything will display at this point, and then it will end at that point. The video camera as well, the bumper cam, it was the right way up, but if it wasn't, you could flip that here, which is saving you a job in your video editing program. Essentially, you can make your video good to go all from this program. It does take some time. It depends how far you want to go with all your data overlays and which things you're trying to actually get out of it. Because again, same AFR gauge. Say I wanted to add the air intake temp. I've already got this font. If I had loads of these down here and I just wanted to make it the same size, same data, same font, I would just duplicate that and I would change the data that this runs. So I would go into air intake temp, which is manifold air temp. I'll obviously have to change that to air intake temp. And again, that's degrees C, so I'd probably go C, space C, and then I'd obviously add another text like the boost gauge here, just to tell it what it is. But yeah, there's many things you can do with this. I think that's covered it all. When you go to the export, again, it's just very simple. Everything will be within these two lines. So you can just go to create video, make sure I save the project, and make sure you select the highest possible frame rate depending on the main source. So this GoPro is 59.97. The camera here is actually 30 frames, but if I was to select the 30 frame output project, it's just going to be choppy on the GoPro. So we're going to select the right one there. I'm just going to leave this as it is. I'm going to boost the audio quality up to 320 here, and then you can render it within the specific time frame, so between the two flags, or you can do it per lap, which is kind of cool. So I'm just going to go create here, tell it where to save, and we're also just going to dedicate maximum CPU usage to this. This computer is quite powerful, so the time is going to be quite short, especially when you compare having to adjust two video files within a video editing software, and all of the gauges on top, the actual display objects. The time this program takes, even on a normal laptop or something, is very respectable. Of course, if you didn't want your computer to come to a halt trying to do anything else, you could select multitask, or even just pause this process. Or if your computer is really slow, you can select shut down when it's complete and just leave it going overnight. But yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I'll wait for the hard drive to spin up. There you go. So I've got quite a beefy computer here. It's not really breaking a sweat, to be honest. Yeah, you can see even though I'm dedicating maximum CPU, it doesn't really need it. The program's quite well optimized, especially for multiple core computers. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, you can do some really cool stuff with it, and I hope this video helps. Sorry if it's taking a little bit longer. Just wanted to make sure that everything was covered. Yeah, have fun.